Welcome back to ESPR's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Paul Kelly. It's the first boxing betting tip show of the year. Paul, really excited to be speaking to you again, mate. I'm looking forward to more successful betting tips this year. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, mate. It's good to be back. Filmed my first video with Elliot Grigg the other day, and I'm excited to be back here. Hopefully, providing more betting tips. I'm hoping that in 2023 we will win our loyal fans and viewers thousands of pounds.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. We know it's a busier January than we're used to, so I think we're going to be doing one of these shows every week in January, I imagine, whereas kind of in previous years, there's not much going on in January. But yeah, right back to it. As always, we're going to be doing the standard format of having a bet for the main event, having a bet for an undercard fight, and then having a bet that's you've identified as being good value. So we'll get right into it. There's just kind of one notable card going on in the States this weekend with Gervonta Davis headlining. I'll let you take it away, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. As you said there, it's really only one big event, so I've gone for three bets all on the same card. Headlined by Gervonta Davis and Hector Luis Garcia. Not the Garcia we want Davis to be fighting, but still a decent enough test, I think. Obviously, two undefeated fighters. And you look at Hector Luis Garcia. He's got 10 KOs and 16 victories. He was the WBA regular champion at super featherweight before he's moving up now to fight Gervonta Davis. Tank a lot of going on outside the ring for him. But I still think, inside the ring, he's ferocious. He's an incredible talent. He has 25 KOs in his 27 wins. There's no value really in taking him just to win by knockout. So I've gone for a range of rounds. I think this is a tough fight, and I could probably see it happening in the second half. But I'm going to go for the middle third of the fight, and I'm going to go with Tank Davis to win by stoppage in rounds 5 to 8, which is 7 to 4. So I think there's some decent value to be had there.
Yeah, the 7-4 sounds good to me. I think Gervonta Davis, I think in like kind of he's gone from kind of knocking a lot of guys out early to maybe knocking them out late or knocking them out in the mid rounds. So yeah, it's an interesting one here because I feel like Hector Garcia, look, he's not a bad fighter. He's not just this fight. I don't think it's going to be over early. To be honest, I think Gervonta Davis is going to stop him in the middle rounds or the late rounds. I just think one thing bearing in mind, Hector Garcia kind of campaigned at super featherweight, has actually campaigned at featherweight as well during the start of his career. So I just don't see him lasting the distance with Gervonta Davis. So yeah, not a bad tip at all to get us started, Paul. We'll move on to your undercard bet now.
Yeah, this is another one where it's quite interesting. We've got another undefeated fighter in the home corner in Demetrius Andrade, and this is his first fight at super middleweight, I believe. He hasn't fought since the back end of 2021, and it was only a 2-round blowout of Jason Quigley. So what are we expecting of Demetrius Andrade? I'm not too sure. He's fighting Damon Nicholson, I think you call him, and he's 26-4-1, and he's got nearly all knockouts on his record, so he's clearly a big puncher, Andrade moving up to a division where he hasn't campaigned before, but he is a former two-weight world champion, obviously at light middle and middle. I do think he'll win, and I end up thinking he will get the stoppage victory here as well. I'm not going for any particular rounds, but Andrade just to win by KO, TKO, or disqualifications 11-8. I'm seeing odds for, so yeah. I think that's decent enough value just for a stoppage at any time in the fight.
I think so. I think I consider Andrade to be an elite fighter personally. He's had a frustrating career. These kind of big, massive fights haven't happened for him, and he's kind of not a spring chicken anymore. I think one thing about his career is he's had some fights where you'd expect him to stop someone, and he hasn't done. Liam Williams' fight is an example, perhaps. But this is him. Yeah, him at super middleweight's interesting. I think I'm really interested to see how he looks at super middleweight and if he can get any kind of major fights at that weight. Going up against a decent fighter, going up against someone who can really punch clearly. So it's interesting to see how wary he's going to be of Nicholson's power. But I personally, as from a prediction standpoint, am picking Andrade to stop Nicholson as well. I really am. I can see that. I can see that happening. But yeah, it's an intriguing fight this weekend because when's Andrade last been up against someone with Nicholson's power? I'm not sure. It feels like it's been a while. So yeah, really intriguing with that one. But yeah, like the idea of Andrade by stoppage. Last but not least, just going to ask you to select a bet that it's kind of like an underdog bet / somewhere where there's really good value. If someone just wants to chuck a fiver on something that's got really good odds, that's the sort of direction we're heading in now. So yeah, we'll leave it to you, Paul, to close things off.
Yeah, obviously one of the other fights on this card is Jeroen Ennis, and he's fighting Karen Chikadzian. And Jeroen Ennis, everyone knows who that is. He's arguably the hottest prospect in the welterweight division. One of the best outside of Spence and Crawford. Remains to be seen what he will go on to achieve. But yeah, he's fighting for the IBF interim title here at welterweight. Spence hasn't defended it for a while or whatever, or to become mandatory. And he's fighting, Karen Chikadzian, who's 21-1. His one solo defeat did come back, and it's like his second fight or something. One of those in over a 4-rounder or a 3-rounder. So, I don't know about you, but I don't really count them as huge losses, because he's gone on to win 21 straight fights or 20 straight fights, beating some decent fighters in Ryan Martin and Blake Minto and stuff. But yeah, obviously Ennis is like 1-30 or something to win this fight, and he's odds on to win the fight within the first 3-4 rounds. I personally can see it maybe going into the mid rounds. So it's exactly the same bet as my first Gervonta Davis bet. I've picked Jeroen Ennis to win in rounds 5 to 8, and that's coming out at odds of 13 to 5. So you're almost getting 3-1 there on Ennis to win in rounds 5 to 8. I know he has blown a few good fighters out recently, but I think the middle rounds here, there's some exceptional value there.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points I want to make, and that's that the guy he's fighting is clearly a decent fighter. He's not like a world beater, but he's not a bad fighter at all. And also, I think one thing you could say about Ennis in the last year or so, he's not had rounds. So it's probably, I don't think him blasting this guy out in 1 or 2 rounds is going to be of particular interest to him. If he's fighting Errol Spence later this year or fighting for a world title, he needs to kind of have some rounds in this fight. So yeah, that's not bad at all. I'm not saying it's impossible that this fight could end early, but I just think that it's in his interest to do that, and I think that this looks on paper like to be a decent test for Jeroen Ennis. I think I expect him to kind of pass with flying colours, exceptional talents, but yeah, not against that at all. All right, Paul, some good bets there. I think sometimes it's nice when we've just got one fight, one card to kind of focus on. You can really go into detail and kind of analyze each of the main fights. But as always with tradition, we'll ask you to put those 3 bets into a treble for us.
Yeah, so the 3 ones I mentioned there, I'll just quickly go over them again. It's Gervonta Davis to win by stoppage in rounds 5 to 8. Jeroen Ennis to win by stoppage in rounds 5 to 8, and Demetrius Andrade just to win by stoppage. To put them into a treble, it comes out of odds of 22.5 to 1. So a fiver will get you almost 120 quid back, and a tenner will get you 235 back. So hoping to start the year with a bang. Again, obviously, if you don't fancy some of those tips, or you maybe fancy 2 but not 1, or even putting them in your own double or whatever with other fights you might prefer, go ahead and do so. But yeah, I think there's definitely some good value there for our opening betting show of the year.
Yeah, lovely stuff, Paul. Yeah, really appreciate your time, mate. Always enjoyed discussing these tips with you. Always enjoyed kind of reviewing on Saturday night or Sunday morning how you got on. But yeah, good stuff, mate. Thank you for your time, and we'll be back next week.
Cheers, Elliot.